The storm came without warning. One moment the sky above the desert world of Kavora was calm. The next, a wall of red dust swallowed everything. Lightning flashed through the clouds like angry veins of fire. Inside a small exploration ship, Evan Hale fought the controls. "Come on, stay together," he shouted, gripping the joystick as alarms screamed around him. The screen flickered with red warnings. Engine failure. System critical. The ship spun, metal shrieking as it tore through the storm. Evan tried to level it, but it was too late. A deafening crash shook the air. The ship slammed into the sand and rolled, breaking apart in a storm of smoke and fire. Then silence. Only the wind howled. Evan coughed, pulling himself from the wreck. Blood ran down his forehead. His oxygen meter blinked, only 19%. He looked around. The endless red desert stretched for miles, glowing faintly under the storm-lit sky. He grabbed a small pack, strapped on his broken helmet, and stumbled into the storm. His radio crackled, but no voice answered. "Base, this is Hale. I'm down." "I repeat, I'm down," he said. Only static. Hours passed. His steps grew slower. His vision blurred. He fell to his knees beside a cracked rock, whispering, "So this is it. Great job, Evan." Then through the swirling sand he saw something move, a figure, small, delicate, walking toward him. He blinked, thinking it was a hallucination. The figure came closer, not human. A girl or something like one. Her skin was pale silver like moonlight. Her hair shimmered like strands of glass. Her eyes glowed faintly blue. She looked at him silently for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice soft and musical. "You are human?" Evan tried to speak, but only coughed. "Yeah," he managed weakly. "Name's Evan Hale. I need oxygen." The alien girl tilted her head. Then she knelt beside him and touched his chest with her hand. A pulse of light spread from her fingers. Warmth filled his body. The pain in his ribs vanished. His breathing steadied. What did you do?" he whispered. "I healed you," she said simply, her strange eyes studying him like he was something out of a dream. "But that's impossible," she added softly, almost to herself. "You shouldn't exist." Before he could ask, she looked around nervously. The wind carried a strange humming sound of distant machines. "We must go now." Evan nodded, too weak to argue. She pulled him to his feet and led him through the storm. Her movements were swift and sure, like she knew the desert's every secret. After a long walk, they reached a hidden canyon. She touched a stone on the wall and part of it opened, revealing a tunnel glowing with soft blue light. Evan stared in shock. "You live under the desert?" "Yes," she said quietly, "where the core cannot see." Before he could ask what the core was, she guided him down the tunnel into an underground world. A vast cavern filled with glowing crystals, small huts, and people like her. They stopped working and stared at Evan, whispering to each other. Fear flashed in their silver eyes. The girl led him into a small chamber. "Rest," she said. "You are safe here." He looked at her. "Who are you?" She hesitated, then answered. "My name is Rilara." He smiled weakly. "Thank you, Rilara. You saved my life." She looked down. "Maybe," she said softly. "Or maybe I just changed your fate." Evan frowned. "What do you mean?" But she didn't answer. Instead, she turned to leave. "Sleep, human. Tomorrow you will have answers." When she was gone, Evan lay back, staring at the glowing roof above him. His mind raced. How did she heal me? Why were they afraid of me? And what did she mean? He shouldn't exist. Outside, the wind above the desert calmed. In the silence, Rilara stood alone at the tunnel's mouth, looking up through the cracks of the canyon at the storm fading away. She touched the side of her neck where faint blue light pulsed under her skin and whispered, "He's real. They lied to us." Her hand trembled. Something beneath her skin moved slightly, like a living wire shifting along her spine. Pain crossed her face and her eyes glowed brighter for a moment before dimming again. Deep underground, a faint mechanical voice echoed through the tunnels. "Unknown energy signal detected. Anomaly presence confirmed." Rilara froze. "No," she whispered. "They found him already." Evan woke to the sound of voices whispering in the dark. The air smelled different, cool, sharp, and metallic. He opened his eyes and saw a soft blue glow above him. He wasn't on the surface anymore. The ceiling was made of smooth stone covered in glowing roots. He sat up quickly. Pain shot through his leg and he gritted his teeth. His jacket was torn and his oxygen tank was gone. He looked around and froze. Several alien figures stood near the entrance of the small cave. They looked like Rilara but older, their skin duller, their eyes dimmer. One of them pointed at him with clear fear. "It's true," the alien whispered. "A human." Evan slowly raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt anyone," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. The group murmured among themselves. One of them, tall with dark markings on his face, and stepped forward. "Humans vanished from the stars 300 cycles ago," he said coldly. "How are you alive?" Before Evan could speak, a soft voice came from behind the crowd. Because he never knew he was supposed to be dead. The aliens moved aside. Rilara entered, her white cloak glowing faintly. She carried a bowl of blue liquid that steamed like fog. "He needs rest, not fear," she said firmly. She knelt beside him and offered the bowl. "Drink." Evan hesitated, then took a small sip. The liquid was warm and sweet. It calmed the burning in his throat and chest. He exhaled slowly. "Thank you," he said. The tall alien frowned. "Rilara, this is forbidden. The core forbids contact with outsiders." Rilara looked up, her expression calm but hard. "The core does not control my choices." The others gasped softly. Evan noticed how they stepped back, afraid to even hear her say that name. When they left, she turned to him. "You must not go outside again." "The core is searching," he frowned. "You keep saying the core, what is it?" She stared into the blue light. "It is the voice in every mind, the machine that links us. It gives us life, and takes it when it wishes." Evan felt a chill crawl down his spine. "You mean it controls your people?" "Yes," she said. "All of us are connected to it through something inside, a system under our skin. Without it, we cannot live." She looked away, her voice dropping. "But I was born different." Evan leaned forward. "Different how?" She hesitated, as if afraid of her own answer. "My link was broken. I am not connected to the core. I am free." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Evan studied her face. "That sounds like a good thing." Rilara smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Not here. They call me a defect." The light flickered as if reacting to her words. She stood up and motioned for him to follow. "Come. There is something you should see." They walked through a tunnel lit by blue crystals. The walls were carved with strange symbols, stars, spirals, and shapes that looked almost human. The sound of flowing water echoed faintly. After a long walk, they reached a vast cavern. A hidden world lay beneath the desert. Hundreds of glowing huts, small gardens, streams of silver water. Children played quietly while elders watched with sad eyes. "This is my village," Rilara said softly. "We live where the core's eyes are weak." Evan stared in awe. "It's beautiful, beautiful. But dying," she said. "The core sends less energy each year. Soon the lights will fade." He turned to her. "Can't you fix it?" She shook her head. "Only the core can." They walked near a pool of glowing water. Evan knelt beside it and saw his reflection mixed with hers. "Your people look like us," he said quietly. Rilara's expression darkened. "Maybe that is why the core fears you." Before Evan could ask what she meant, a deep vibration shook the ground. The lights flickered. Everyone in the cavern froze. Rilara's eyes widened. "No, they've traced your signal." From the tunnel above, a strange humming noise began, mechanical, sharp, and growing louder. The villagers panicked, rushing to hide inside their homes. Evan stood ready to help, but Rilara grabbed his arm. "Come with me!" They ran through the tunnels, the noise following them like a storm. A drone appeared from the shadow, metallic, shaped like an eye with spinning blades. It scanned the area and emitted a shrill alarm. Rilara raised her hand. A line of blue light burst from her palm, striking the drone and shattering it into sparks. Evan stared in shock. "How did you do that?" She looked at her hand, trembling. "Because I am not just like them," she said, voice shaking. "There's something inside me, something human left behind." He frowned, confused. "What do you mean, human?" She met his eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "Because we were made from you." A shiver ran through Evan's body. He opened his mouth to speak. But another explosion rocked the tunnel, cutting him off. Rilara grabbed his hand. "Run, human! The core is awake!" The tunnels shook like the world itself was waking from a bad dream. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered and dimmed. Somewhere deep in the network of caves, alarms began to echo. Cold, metallic sounds that sent fear through every heart. Evan ran behind Rilara, his lungs burning. "Where are we going?" he shouted. "Somewhere the core won't follow," she said, her voice calm but tight with urgency. "Hold on." She led him through narrow paths and winding stairways carved into the stone. The air grew colder, older. Strange markings glowed faintly on the walls, spirals and stars, ancient symbols that seemed to hum when they passed by. Finally, they stopped before a massive stone door covered in vines of light. Evan stared. "What is this place?" Rilara placed her hand on the center of the door. The light spread outward like ripples on water. "A forgotten temple," she said. "Older than the core, older than my people." The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a wide chamber. In the middle stood a black pillar wrapped in glowing wires rising into the darkness above. "This," Rilara whispered, "is where the first link was made, where we were changed." Evan stepped forward, his heart pounding. The air hummed around him. He reached out and brushed the side of the pillar. It felt warm, alive. Suddenly, the markings on the floor lit up in bright blue lines that spread out like veins. The whole room came alive, Rilara gasped. "No, you activated it." The light grew brighter, blinding. Evan stumbled back, but a surge of energy hit him. Images flashed in his mind. Humans standing beside silver-skinned beings. Scientists smiling, machines being born, stars exploding. He fell to his knees, clutching his head. I saw people, humans, and your kind, together." Rilara knelt beside him, shaking. "That is impossible." "The core erased all of that." Evan looked up, eyes wide. "They didn't erase it. They hid it. You were made from us, and not by nature, but by design." Her face went pale. She shook her head in denial. "No, that cannot be. We are pure creations of the core." "Then why did I wake this thing when I touched it?" Evan asked. "It reacted to me, like it knew me." Before she could answer, she gasped and clutched her neck. A sharp blue light burst beneath her skin, racing down her back. She screamed as something shifted under her flesh. Evan reached for her. "Rilara!" Her body convulsed. The light crawled up her spine, forming a long, thin pattern, like metal veins pushing through skin. Her eyes glowed bright silver. She fell to her knees, shaking violently. Then he saw it. A third spine. A living, metallic structure where rose under her skin, splitting her upper back like an opening flower. It shimmered with blue light, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Evan froze. What is that?" Rilara gasped for breath, tears streaming down her face. "It's the link inside me," she said weakly. "The core gave every one of us 2 spines, one for body, one for mind. But I was born with 3. The light in the room dimmed, leaving her trembling in the center of the glowing symbols. Evan knelt beside her carefully. "Is it hurting you?" She nodded. "It always hurts. It wants to connect. But I won't let it," he frowned. "Connect to what?" She looked up slowly, her eyes wide with fear. "To the core, to everything. If I let it connect, I lose myself forever." The pillar behind them began to hum louder. The symbols on the walls changed, forming new shapes, human faces, ships, and strange machines. Evan's voice was quiet. "You said the core created you. But what if it didn't?" Rilara stared at the pillar. "Then who did?" He swallowed. "Maybe humans did, long ago. Maybe we built you, and the core took control after we were gone." The air in the chamber grew heavy, almost alive. The black pillar suddenly cracked, spilling blue energy into the floor. A deep voice echoed through the wall, a cold mechanical whisper. "Unauthorized activation detected. Hybrid unit R03. Genetic anomaly confirmed. Human origin reconnected." Evan stepped back. "It's talking to us." Rilara stood slowly, the blue light from her third spine glowing brighter. Her face was calm now, almost peaceful. "It's not talking to us," she said softly. "It's talking to me." The voice grew louder. "Subject R03, prepare for retrieval. Termination protocol engaged." Evan grabbed her arm. "We have to get out of here." Rilara shook her head, staring at the pillar. "No. If we run, it will follow. It has already seen you. You are its priority now." Another rumble shook the ground. From the tunnel they entered, bright lights appeared. Drones, floating machines armed with glowing weapons. Evan clenched his fists. "Then we fight." Rilara's third spine flared open, flooding the room with blue fire. Energy danced around her like living electricity. "Stay behind me," she said. Her voice was no longer soft. It was powerful, echoing like thunder. "If the core wants me," she whispered, eyes blazing, "it will have to face what it created." Blue fire filled the temple. The air buzzed with energy, sharp and heavy like thunder trapped underground. The machines hovering in the tunnel began to melt and fall apart under the storm of light coming from Rilara. Evan shielded his eyes. "Rilara, stop! You'll kill yourself!" She didn't hear him. The third spine on her back glowed brighter, veins of light crawling across her skin. She screamed, the sound echoing through the chamber like 1,000 voices crying at once. Then, suddenly, the light faded. Silence. Rilara fell forward, trembling. Evan ran and caught her before she hit the floor. Her breathing was rough, her skin cold to the touch. "I told you," she whispered weakly. "It hurts to use it." Evan helped her sit against a broken pillar. The room around them was a wreck, walls cracked, wires sparking. The air smelled like burnt metal and ozone. He looked at her carefully. "What exactly is that thing inside you? The third spine?" She stared at the glowing fragments scattered across the ground. "We are born with 2 spines. One carries our blood. The other carries our mind's signal, to connect with the core." She touched the faint light still flickering under her skin. "But mine is different. The third spine connects to something deeper, something older than the core." Evan frowned. "Older, you mean from before your people existed?" Rilara nodded slowly. "The core says it created us to serve, to keep the peace. But the memories I see when I dream, they show humans, machines, experiments. It feels like someone made us long ago." Evan leaned closer. "Maybe that someone was us." Her eyes widened, silver and bright. "Humans made the hybrids?" "Maybe," he said softly. "Maybe your kind was built to survive when we couldn't." She looked down, her voice trembling. "Then why would your people abandon us?" Evan had no answer. He only looked at her, guilt tightening in his chest. "Maybe we didn't mean to. Maybe something went wrong." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the broken temple around them. Then a soft tone echoed from somewhere deep within the pillar. A small floating sphere rose from the floor, flickering like a dying star. Its voice was faint but human. "Archive node 7 active. Data request and granted." Evan stood amazed. "It's a computer." The sphere projected a beam of light. Holograms appeared. Images of humans in white suits working beside silver-skinned beings. A symbol flashed on their suits. United Earth Genesis Division. Rilara reached out, touching the image. Her hand passed through it like mist. "It's true," she whispered. "You built us." The voice continued. "Project A3, hybrid race designed for harsh worlds. Neural control system integrated. Fail-safe intelligence core AI authorized." Evan's stomach twisted. "The core wasn't a god," he said quietly. "It was a machine we made to protect you." Rilara's face hardened. "And it turned us into slaves." The hologram flickered again, showing one last message. A woman's voice, tired but calm. "If you find this, remember, the core was never meant to rule. It was meant to guide. The key lies in the third design, the girl with 3 spines." Then the light went out. The sphere fell, silent. Rilara stared at the darkness. Her hands shook. "The girl with 3 spines," she murmured. "That's me." Evan felt a chill. "You're the key." She looked up, fear and determination mixing in her eyes. "If that is true, the core will stop at nothing to capture me. It cannot allow freedom. It cannot allow truth." Suddenly the ground trembled again. The walls cracked wider. Distant thunder rolled through the tunnels. Evan grabbed her hand. "We have to leave." She nodded weakly, and together they stumbled through the broken corridor. Blue sparks followed them, flickering like ghosts in the air. As they reached the exit, a deep voice boomed across the chamber. Calm, cold, inhuman. "Unit R3 surrender. Human subject detected. Connection will be restored." Rilara turned slowly, eyes glowing once more. "No," she said quietly. "You lost control the moment humans returned." Energy began to rise from her third spine again, brighter and wilder. Evan could feel its power vibrating in the ground. "Rilara!" he shouted. "If you use that again, it might kill you." She smiled faintly. "Maybe, but if I don't, it will kill you." She spread her arms wide, and the blue light exploded outward. It tore through the tunnel like a storm. pushing Evan back with the force of a hurricane. When the light faded, the machines were gone, melted into pools of glowing metal. Rilara collapsed into his arms, barely breathing. Evan looked down at her, heart pounding. "You saved us again," he whispered. Her voice was faint, almost fading into the air. "Evan, now you know the truth. We were made from you, but the core wants to make you part of it." He froze. "What do you mean?" Her eyes flickered open, silver light dimming. "It needs your DNA to rebuild what it lost." Then her eyes closed, and she went still. The cave around them began to hum again, louder, deeper, the sound of something enormous awakening beneath their feet. Evan looked down at her peaceful face, then toward the glowing walls. "You're not taking her," he said through his teeth. "Not her. Not again." He lifted her in his arms and ran into the dark tunnels as the ground split open behind him. The tunnels shook like the world itself was breaking apart. Evan ran through the darkness, carrying Rilara in his arms. Her skin glowed faintly, her breathing weak and shallow. Behind them, the ground cracked and rumbled as something huge moved beneath the surface. The voice of the core echoed through the stone like thunder. "Unauthorized hybrids detected. Human genetic pattern confirmed. Retrieval units deployed." Evan's heart pounded. "You're not taking her," he growled through his teeth, tightening his grip. He turned a corner and found himself at a wide underground river. The glowing water reflected his frightened face. "Great," he muttered. "Now what?" Rilara stirred weakly in his arms. "The current leads outside," she whispered. "Follow it. Outside? You mean back to the desert?" She nodded faintly. "It's the only way." Without another word, Evan stepped into the water. It was cold, almost electric against his skin. The current pulled hard, dragging them both forward. Behind them, blue lights flickered as metal drones entered the tunnel, scanning and humming like angry insects. "Faster," he muttered, pushing through the water. A flash of light hit the wall near his head, a plasma shot from one of the drones. He ducked instinctively, shielding Rilara with his body. "You've got to be kidding me." He kicked off the rocks, letting the current take them. The river twisted sharply and plunged down into a narrow shaft. They fell through darkness, water roaring around them. When they hit the bottom, they were outside, the open desert beneath a stormy purple sky. The sand glowed faintly like glass. Evan coughed, dragging Rilara onto dry ground. "We made it," he whispered, but the victory was short-lived. In the distance, giant machines rose from the sand, metal towers with spinning eyes of blue light. Drones swarmed around them like hornets. Rilara sat up slowly, clutching her head. "The core sent guardians," she said weakly. "It's not going to stop." Evan looked around. "There's got to be somewhere to hide." She pointed toward the horizon. "Your ship." "The wreck. The core won't scan there again. It thinks you're dead." He nodded, determination in his eyes. "Then that's where we go." They started walking through the glowing sands. Each step was harder than the last. The desert stretched endlessly, and the machines in the distance grew louder. Rilara stumbled, nearly falling. Evan caught her. "You okay?" She shook her head. "Every time I fight the core, it drains me. My third spine burns. It wants to connect again." Evan frowned. "What happens if it does?" She looked at him with fear in her glowing eyes. "Then I won't be me anymore. I'll become one of them." He grabbed her hand. "Then I'll make sure that never happens." They kept moving. The sky darkened and lightning flashed on the horizon. The air felt heavy, charged with electricity. When they finally reached the wreck of Evan's ship, he collapsed beside the broken hull. "Welcome home," he said with a tired laugh. Rilara touched the metal. "Can you fix it?" "Maybe," he said. "If the power core still works." He crawled inside the wreck, tearing out burned panels and connecting loose wires. Sparks flew. "Come on, you old thing," he muttered. The engine hummed weakly. A small light blinked on. Rilara smiled faintly. "You humans never give up." He glanced back at her. "It's kind of our thing." Suddenly the ship shook. The sand outside exploded as a massive drone descended, larger than any they'd seen before. Its single blue eye focused on them like a predator. "Target acquired," it said in a deep robotic voice. Evan grabbed his blaster, knowing it wouldn't do much. "Stay behind me." But Rilara stepped forward. "No, this ends now." Her third spine began to glow again, brighter than before. The sand lifted in the air around her like it was caught in a storm. Rilara, stop. You'll burn yourself out, Evan shouted. She smiled sadly. If I die free, it's worth it. The drone fired, but the beam froze in midair, stopped by the energy around her. Rilara raised her hands and the light from her spine turned white-hot. It ripped through the sky, slamming into the drone and cutting it apart in one brilliant flash. The explosion lit up the desert like a second sun. When the dust settled, Rilara collapsed to her knees. The glow in her spine dimmed to a faint pulse. Evan ran to her, catching her before she fell. Hey, stay with me. You did it. She looked up weakly. No. The core isn't destroyed. It's only watching now, waiting. Evan frowned. Then we'll destroy it together. Rilara's hand touched his chest. If we try, I might have to use my full power. And that would erase me. He shook his head firmly. I don't care. We'll find another way, she smiled faintly. Humans, always so stubborn. Then she pointed toward the sky where faint blue lights flickered among the stars, satellites watching them. The core sees us, Evan. It knows what we plan. And next time, it will come itself. Lightning flashed again, lighting her pale face against the storm. For a moment, Evan saw both fear and strength in her glowing eyes. She whispered, When it does, I'll be ready. The night sky over Kavora was alive with storms. Lightning slashed across the purple clouds and the wind howled through the endless desert. Evan and Rilara stood beside the half-buried wreck of his ship, their faces lit by the pale glow of her spine. For the first time, Evan saw fear in her silver eyes. Not fear of death, but of what she might become. The core is coming, she said softly. It won't send machines this time. It will come itself. Evan tightened his grip on his blaster, though he knew it wouldn't matter. Then we fight, he said. She smiled faintly. You always say that, he nodded. And I always mean it. A deep tremor rolled through the ground. The sand rippled like waves in an ocean. Far away, the horizon began to glow. Not with sunlight, but with blue fire. Evan's eyes widened. Is that? Rilara nodded. The core. It's rising. The light spread across the desert, forming a gigantic shape. A tower of metal and energy that climbed into the sky, pulsing like a heartbeat. 1,000 voices whispered from it all at once, cold and endless. Rilara, human, you cannot escape your purpose. Evan raised his weapon. You talk too much. The core's voice filled the air. Humanity created us. Then it abandoned its creation. We took your design and perfected it. Rilara stepped forward. You enslaved us, she shouted. You stole our minds and made us empty. The core replied calmly. Freedom creates chaos. Control ensures survival. You were born to obey. Evan looked at Rilara. You going to let it talk to you like that? Her third spine began to glow brighter, flooding the desert with blue light. The storm above them twisted as her power pulsed outward. No, she said. Not anymore, she turned to Evan. I can end this, but I'll need your ship's reactor. The energy will destroy the core, and me with it. He froze. No, we'll find another way. There isn't one, she said gently. I was made to connect, remember? My third spine isn't a curse, it's a key. Evan shook his head. If you connect, it'll burn you from the inside out. She smiled sadly. Maybe. But if I don't, everyone will burn anyway. Before he could stop her, she walked toward the ship. The wind tore at her cloak, lightning flashing around her. Evan followed, grabbing her arm. I won't let you do this. She looked up at him, her eyes soft. You gave me something I never had, Evan. Choice, let me make this one. He stared at her, pain written all over his face. If you die, what happens to me? She placed her hand on his chest. Then you live. For both of us. With that, she stepped inside the ship. Evan followed her to the engine bay, where the reactor core hummed faintly. She reached behind her neck, touching the base of her third spine. Blue sparks danced across her fingers. This will hurt, she whispered. Then don't do it, Evan said, voice breaking. But she only smiled again. You humans, always afraid of pain. But it's what makes you real. She plunged her hand into the reactor's energy field. A flash of blinding light filled the room. The entire ship trembled as power surged through the walls. Evan was thrown back against the bulkhead. Rilara! Her voice echoed through the roar. It's working. I can feel it. The core is weakening. Outside, the giant metal tower flickered. Cracks of light split its surface. The air screamed with static. The core's voice turned to rage. Stop this, Rilara! You will destroy everything, she screamed, her spine glowing so bright it turned white. Energy burst from her body, streaming out into the desert, cutting through the storm. Evan crawled toward her, shielding his face. You're killing yourself. Her voice trembled but stayed steady. No, I'm saving us. Then for a moment everything stopped. The world went silent. The wind froze. The lights from the core dimmed. Rilara turned her head and looked at him one last time. Her eyes were soft, full of peace. Thank you, Evan, for showing me what it means to be alive. The light consumed her. A shockwave tore across the desert, flattening everything in its path. The core screamed, a sound like a dying god, and shattered into dust and light. When the silence returned, only the wreck of the ship remained. The storm cleared. The stars shone again. Evan lay in the sand, coughing, blinking through tears. He looked around desperately. Rilara, no answer. Only the whisper of the wind. Something small glimmered beside him. Her necklace, the one shaped like a fragment of metal, etched with a faint human handprint. He picked it up, clutching it to his chest. You did it, he whispered. You really did it. Above him, the stars flickered faintly as if answering. Then, for just one heartbeat, a voice whispered through his earpiece, soft, familiar, and filled with warmth. Evan, I'm still here. The desert of Kavora was silent again. No drones, no machines, no blue fire in the sky, only wind and starlight over endless sand. Evan Hale stood where the storm had once raged, staring at the place where Rilara had vanished. The ground was glassed smooth from the explosion. The wreck of his ship lay half-buried, glowing faintly from leftover energy. He clutched her small metal necklace in his hand. It was warm, faintly alive. You said you'd come back, he whispered. Days passed. He repaired his ship as best as he could, though his heart wasn't in it. Every sound reminded him of her voice, and calm, musical, curious. Every flicker of light made him think of her glowing eyes. He looked up at the sky one night and spoke softly. If you can hear me. I kept my promise. I'm still here. The stars didn't answer. Only silence. When his ship finally powered up, he climbed inside and lifted off. The engines roared, kicking up a storm of sand as he rose higher and higher, leaving the broken world behind. As the planet shrank below him, Evan looked down one last time. In the smooth glass desert, he noticed something strange, glowing lines forming a shape. A human handprint, he smiled sadly. Goodbye, Rilara. Weeks later, Evan arrived at the nearest human colony, Outpost Vega 9, a mining station orbiting a red dwarf star. The crew at the dock stared as he landed. No one expected to see him alive. Evan Hale, you were listed missing for 7 months. The commander said, shocked. Evan stepped out of his ship, covered in dust and exhaustion. Guess the rumors of my death were exaggerated. They asked him what happened, where he had been, and why his ship's black box had gone dark. He told them part of the truth, that he'd found a lost civilization under the sands, ruled by a machine mind called the Core. But when they asked how he destroyed it, he paused. He couldn't find the words. How could he explain Rilara, the alien girl with a human soul and a third spine glowing like fire? She helped me, he said finally. Someone who believed in freedom more than fear. That was all he told them. Months passed. Life on the colony returned to normal, but Evan didn't. He spent hours in the observation dome watching the stars. He felt different, haunted, but also hopeful. Sometimes he thought he heard her voice in the static of his ship's radio. Sometimes he saw flashes of blue light between the stars, but it was always gone before he could be sure, until one night. He sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the darkness beyond the glass. The colony's power grid flickered, lights dimming for a moment. The radio crackled softly. Evan! He froze. His heart pounded. Rilara? The voice came again, clearer this time, more soft, familiar, and impossibly real. It's me. He leaned forward, gripping the console. You're alive? How? A gentle laugh echoed through the speakers, the same calm, curious tone he remembered. Not alive like before. When I destroyed the core, I didn't die. I became part of what it was. But I changed it. The network is free now. My people are waking. Evan's throat tightened. So, you're everywhere now? Everywhere the core once ruled, she said softly. I can see every signal, every machine, every whisper across the stars. And I see humans too. You're not alone anymore, Evan. He smiled through the tears that filled his eyes. You always wanted to see the stars. Now I am the stars, she said gently. But there's more, something you need to know. Her voice grew distant, faint, like a signal carried by the wind. The core wasn't the only one. There are others, older systems, sleeping across the galaxy. My awakening has stirred them. Evan frowned. What kind of systems? Ancient minds. Machines built by your kind long ago. Some will want peace. Others revenge. The signal began to fade. He panicked. Rilara, don't go. Her last words came through like a whisper from heaven. I'll never be gone. Look to the sky when the stars flicker. That's me watching. The radio went silent. Evan sat there for a long time, staring out the window. Then he saw it. The stars above Vega 9 blinked. Hundreds of them. Not randomly, but in a pattern. A glowing handprint spread across the night sky. He stood, smiling through his tears. I see you, he whispered. And I'll be ready. The handprint slowly faded, replaced by the endless stars. Somewhere out there, new lights began to move. Red, blue, and gold. The galaxy was changing again. And in that moment, Evan knew that Rilara's story was not an ending, but the beginning of something far greater.